plenty of time to spend with you at the end. So Misty did a credible job in letting you know what we do for a living here, but overall an introduction to who we are, the Office of Technology Partnerships. We're part of research and economic development, and our aim is to catalyze translation of university IP and also guide regional innovations throughout the Southern California area, in particular Riverside County and Inland Empire and so forth, for proof of concept, discovery, capitalization, market and business development, and of course, heavy emphasis on federal and other types of grants, foundational, state, and corporate grants as well. So what we're going to chat about, as I promised you last week, and we'll stay the course here, is that we're going to cover those topics there. I wanted to actually spend some quality time with you on some additional COVID-19 specific grant opportunities that I think might be a fit for all of us, and we'll get onto that in a second. Now, I'm a great lover of interaction because for mostly humanitarian reasons, I'm sure most of you do not want to hear me yakking away the whole time, but what we'd like to ask you to do is to hold your questions and comments and so forth to the end, and then hop in there, and we'll do our very, very best to answer your questions, and hopefully even correctly. And if not, we'll certainly get back to you within 24 hours if we are not able to answer your questions. So as some of you may recall, we spent time focusing on these three areas expressly pertaining to COVID-19 FOAs. And as you also may recall, those for the NIH were expressly geared toward those who already had active awards. And so they're supplements for existing grants, or they're also urgent competitive revisions to existing grants as well. If any of you looked into that and actually initiated making applications there, we'd love to learn your experiences and have you share those with us. The aim of those three, of course, are rapid turnaround, quick deadlines for many, and some of them are past, some of them are within a week, some of them are a little bit further, and we'll let you know about each one of them. So what I'd like to do, however, is there are actually, believe it or not, there are north of 75 COVID-19 FOAs that are out there right now that are available. Many of them may be applicable to us. Some of them are not. And what I thought that I would do is share a few of them with you that I thought were probably the most germane to what I anticipate our audience is today. And if not, what we're going to be doing is placing online all 75 of them, and avail you an opportunity to take a look at them, and perhaps one of them is a fit for you, something of interest to you that we didn't address today. So here's the first one, and this has to do with the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. Now, their primary clients are healthcare, hospital systems, and networks, and so forth. And there are two that are just like the NIH, and they're revision supplements for existing grants and so forth. But the one that I have yellow highlighted down there are not. And this is one that if you have an innovative idea, if you've got a solution, if you've got an initiative and so forth that you feel may be a good fit, we have inserted here a link for you to take a look at it. They are keenly interested in two things in particular: digital health and telemedicine. And they've been focusing on this at least for the past decade. but in particular with regard to what has been going on with COVID-19 and so forth, there is even a greater interest in digital health solutions, telemedicine, and so forth. So for those of you who are in that space, I would encourage you to take a peek at that. I wanted to also introduce you to an accelerator that has actually come about just a couple of years ago in September of 2017. And this is a Techstar managed accelerator. And it generally pertains to the Air Force, where they're trying to motivate internal, that is to say, within the Air Force organization, innovation from their people, but they are seeking collaborations with small businesses just like us. And there are actually three accelerators, excuse me, in Las Vegas at UNLV, at University of Texas at Austin, and somewhere else about 3 or 4 blocks away from the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. These are 5 focus areas that they would like you to pay attention to. And the aim of this particular program is acceleration. The process is a far more simplified way of going about it relative to what you may experience with the SBIR. And the aim is to get a contract issuance back to you within 30 days if they like what you have to offer. The aim here is a phase 1 is to, again, focus on concept, and it is your job or our job to find a customer within the confines of the Air Force in order to move on to phase 2 to trial the innovation or the product. And then phase 3 is the derivation of a contract with that entity and with the Air Force if all things work out. In addition to that, if any of you have a specialty or an interest in fending off autonomous vehicle or autonomous technologies threats, they're keenly interested in that. Take a look below at the process for submitting an application. And it's not a full-on one. It's not like a project pitch for the NSF or anything like that. Just reach out and send a brief description of your solution to them, and let's see what happens there. The other one is of interest that I thought might be a fit for us, and this is a formation of a rapid, agile, and flexible collaboration and among industry, academics, and not-for-profit initiatives as well. It's, again, the aim is for agility, flexible, and speed, and they operate under what's called an other transaction agreement or authority. And it replaces what any of you who have done business with the DoD before, it replaces as being far more quicker and efficient than federal acquisition regulations and so forth. So the objective is to form a collaborative partnership with the, it's a mouthful, the Joint Program Medical Countermeasures Systems. Try saying that fast 3 times. We have to, however, join the MCDC, and that's the link for that. And typically, once we become a member of the MCDC, and that's not a difficult thing to do, by the way, we'll get requests for what are called RPPs, prototype proposals, and so forth. But that does not preclude us from reaching out to them with an idea as well. So something for you to consider. This is another one that was issued by the Department of Defense. And for those of you who skipped class and went fishing like I did, this pertains to Isaac Newton. If you're like me, when the word Newton comes up, the word fig comes closely next after that. The opportunity here is that they're following on what Isaac Newton had to deal with the plague of London back in the mid-1600s. And this is an interesting one. Solutions actually for us are across the board. They pertain to, I don't know, artificial intelligence, machine learning, engineering, material science, quantum physics, social, cognitive science, biology. You think about it, there's probably an opportunity. This is a great chance for those of you who'd like to be go as crazy-haired as you can possibly be. And by crazy hair, I'm thinking, think about Back to the Future with Professor Emmett Brown. But if those of you who have an idea, something that might be very exciting and appealing, this may be a great chance for you. The distinguishing characteristic with this one, however, is that they're not looking for a traditional research. You can submit data as part of your work, but they're not looking for it. No experiments, no use of instrumentation or anything like this. So it's somewhere between a white paper and an idea and a solution that you can reach out to them and propose. And if they like it, if you're really disruptive, maybe this is your chance to get some funding. And there's going to be up to 10 awards. And as you can see, it's not a heck of a lot of money. It's $50,000 per investigator or $100,000. They are keenly interested right now, and they're focusing on COVID-19 pandemic solutions. So if you have an idea that is considerably more disruptive than the average, then this might be of interest to you. Other ones I thought might be of interest to us, and I have attached the links here for you to tap into that and see if it might be of interest and consideration for you. Johns Hopkins has a couple of them. The MIT program has something called the Elevate Prize Foundation, and the next four, Mozilla and Pfizer, and I'm particularly intrigued about programs that are issued by prospective corporate partners of the University of California at Riverside and so forth. And there are several of us at UC Riverside who are moving fairly assertively to form corporate research partnerships now as well. And this might be something of interest to you. Now, the distinguishing characteristic with the Pfizer one is just like the AHRQ that I had shown you earlier. These pertain to solutions to improve the clinical outcomes, cost and productivity, operations, and even the economics for provider healthcare systems and hospital networks and so forth. So I would encourage you to look into that. I included the Mozilla open source support program. This will be of interest only to a few of you, but the reason why I put that in there, frankly, is on behalf of an ICOR a group that we worked with in the past, the most recent ICOR program, and this might be of prospectively interest to them, and I'm of course going to be reaching out to them to see if this might be a fit as well. Down below is a ventilator challenge, and for those of you who have an idea for a rapid turnaround to develop effective and productive ventilators and so forth, this might be an opportunity for you as well. So overall, as I've mentioned, we found 75. We researched, we borrowed, we poached, we even had to use incriminating photographs to get a few of them just to get this list. And we're going to be uploading them, and they're going to be available for you in about 24 or worst case 48 hours. And I would encourage you, if you're interested, to take a peek and see if there are any of the 75. There's north of 75 that are available. And not all of them are rapid turnaround, which means that you have to submit them by the end of this month or possibly in April. Some of them go as far out as June or October or even as late as November or December. They're not just simply focusing on COVID-19, they're focusing on what's going to come in the pipeline after COVID-19 as well. So this might be of interest to you. Likewise, so think about it. So those are just a few. There's a bunch more, as I have indicated, and it'll be online. feel free in about 24 hours to tap in and see if there may be some other ones that I did not mention. And who knows, might be a fit. And for all of those, by the way, I was hoping that it might go without saying, but as Misty has already indicated, we our overture to you and our offering to you is that we will be your deep dive partners. And if any of you have ever worked with me before, you know that I get right down into the trenches with you in order to make certain that we optimize your chances for funding success and so forth. So anyway, as I recall, Misty, I think you actually wanted us to go further with regard to lessons learned and the basics and so forth, and sort of keep that promise. I wanted to share with you some of the areas that, quite frankly, I feel like are the big issues, and these are the four. And so we'll start with letters. You know, I probably should have highlighted evidence as opposed to the other ones there, but what I have found over and over and over again is that, believe it or not, we don't spend enough time on having letters from targeted stakeholders, those who would be prospective customers who, elbows flailing, might be the first ones to want to gain access to our innovation, but also partners and anyone else who would be part of our ecosystem in delivering the innovation into the market. So really, really important. And I emphasize evidence because this isn't the only market problem that we've had. As many of you recall, we had the Great Recession in 2008 and 2009, and we had the dot-com bubble burst in 1999 through 2001 and so forth. And very, very important that the reviewers, you know, these are risk-averse individuals. They're just like regular human beings, just like you and me. And you know, there was a time that before 2008, there used to be people like me who thought we were the smartest people in the world and could tell a good investment from a bad investment. All you had to do was ask us and we would tell you that. But after the 2008, 2009 Great Recession, most of us have to sneak up to the mirror every morning to brush our teeth and wash our face and so forth, because we're looking at one of the dumbest people we've ever seen in our lives. So in a way to minimize that risk, the evidence from a letter of support, and in particular in phase 2 for commitments, if you can allay our concerns that there actually is proof, demonstrable evidence that your target customer audience will indeed buy in, invest in your innovation, that makes the job on we, the reviewers, in making a determination in terms of whether or not you have something that actually can be translated into the market, be sustainable, be lucrative, and succeed in the long run there. So I can't underscore enough how important that is to do that. And by the way, this has indeed been a congressional mandate to each one of the agencies to get great, most innovative ideas out of the lab into the market, and it actually is a condition for increased funding in the ensuing years. So very, very important. We actually have templates and sample letters, memorandums of understandings and so forth. And for any of you who have worked with me in the past, I am very, very happy to share with you templates and examples. And these letters are required from just about anybody, quite frankly. The target customer audience is, of course, an absolutely critical one. But everything that you see listed on the right side in terms of strategic alliances, partnerships, consultants, subcontractors, and the list goes on, all are very, very important. And I guess I'm beating the source to death. Really important stuff. For anyone who have worked with me in the past, these are the deal killers. you know, if you're a trained researcher, if you've got a master's degree, if you've got an MD, if you've got a PhD, you most likely have been trained in these areas here. But for the rest of us mere mortals, we haven't. So this can be, quite frankly, it's a big bugaboo for us. And this is an area that, quite frankly, I probably spend the largest amount of time going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on this. And it's okay. It's not a problem if you have not been trained and don't understand the protocol for research design methods and so forth. But we're here to help you, and we'll go side by side with you, and we'll make certain that in addition to your idea being significant and innovative, that you got to keep in mind that the study sections, the reviewers from these agencies are trained for the most part in the academic world. And as they have had to do all their lives, they expect and demand the same quality of research design. And you know, I realize that there are distinguishing characteristics per project, and I also do understand that each agency has different requisites and so forth per discipline. But our proofs of concept, our feasibility, efficacy, they have got to be based upon sound research methods. So not to be a big problem, but if I find that we need a little fortification here, we are there to help you out. But at the same time, if this is an area that you probably don't have the right skill set, and it may not be the best idea to try to do it yourself, I'd say that about at least 65% of the SBIR, STTR initiatives that I work on, I may ask for your blessing and agreement to perhaps fortify your team. And sometimes this may be for those of you who are not within UC Riverside or another university, I may ask for your consideration to perhaps partner you up with a researcher at UC Riverside or any other university around the country that may have a special interest in your space. The purpose is to enhance your overall credibility and credentials and so forth. And so expect that from me. It's to make certain that you are having the most optimal chances of success when it comes time to the presentation of our credentials and credibility in the overall study. So again, I can't underscore enough, it's very, very important to have the right team. And even in phase one, even if there is on the case for certain agencies, if they're not asking for anything more than an introduction to the commercialization opportunity, it is always a good idea to let them know that you have a CEO or a CEO in residence, or that you have experts and specialists in the space that you are working on who will help you with business and market development and commercialization, and has the wherewithal, if not to carry you all the way to your planned exit or liquidity event, to carry you to a certain point where we may want to then hand the baton over to a professional CEO and so forth. So this is a topic that we will typically have a conversation on. Now, there are commercialization plans that are called for in phase one for certain agencies. There are those that are not, where they're just simply asking you to provide them with maybe a page or half a page, a couple of paragraphs for commercialization opportunity. This can also be a bugaboo for those of you who are not trained in commercialization plans. They'll give you a list looking something like this, but more often than not, what we provide them is nowhere near what they're really asking for. Unfortunately, they're not really offering guidance in terms of the topics of the conversation that they would like. So for customer and competition, half of us will say, well, there is no competition. We are unique in all the world. Or the total addressable market may be something akin to the Milky Way universe, and the market that we're going to go after right now kind of resembles Earth. Well, we need to be a little bit more realistic and be specific about that. And intellectual property can be a provisional application. Even with a provisional application, however, we need to be very, very careful what we disclose and what we do not disclose as well. So these are agencies. The other agencies that I'm not mentioning here follow the same characteristics and so forth. And note that the DOE, that's Energy, Department of Energy, and the National Science Foundation heavily focus on commercialization. They're asking for a sophisticated presentation of the plan early on, even in phase 1. And in phase 2, very, very comprehensive delineation, not in terms of who we're going after, but exactly how we're going after. It's kind of like a get, keep, and grow that market. And there have been many studies, I can assure you of that, that may have a very quality project description in terms of study approach, research design, but if they do a poor job in the commercialization plan, that's ground for rejection. So I can't underscore how important this is as well. They've gone to the point of actually offering support for those of us who have been awarded a phase 1. They have contracts with at least 3 entities. One is Foresight Science and Technology back in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area. We've got LARDA, L-A-R-D-A, in here in Los Angeles. And we've got Dawnbreaker, located in the, I believe, the Boulder, Colorado area. And for any of us who have been awarded a phase 1, we get an opportunity to receive a fairly high caliber report from them that can actually be used as a good stepping stone for our business plan and for correspondence with venture capital operating companies and angel investors and so forth. And so these are pretty good programs. And we're going to chat a little bit further about I-Corps, which I'm a disciple of and an instructor. And we'll chat about that a little bit further. The problem here is that the commercialization plan is not well written overall. And so in addition to project description, study approach methods, and so forth, the way the COM plan is written, it's not evidence-based. Again, I underscore the word evidence, and it's not trustworthy. And if we put together a poor commercialization plan, then we really undermine our chances for investment success, not just with SBIR, but with follow-on private equity investors as well. So to that end, in addition to the support that from those 3 consulting firms that I had referenced, and by the way, we provide you through the SBDC, the EIR's Entrepreneurs in Residence. They are deeply, deeply experienced in commercialization plans. They've been there, they've done it, they've won capital many times. If they can't help you, probably nobody else can as well. But back in 2015 area or earlier, Congress had a no-nonsense mandate to the agencies that if you want to receive increased funding from us, you've got to show us how you are going to be able to more effectively translate research that we fund into the commercial market space. And hence, I-Corps, by way of the National Science Foundation and by way of a gentleman by the name of Steve Blank, who had introduced the lean Launchpad method at Stanford and University of California at Berkeley. I-Corps started with the National Science Foundation, but the NIH, the DHS, USDA, Defense, and Energy also have their own I-Corps programs as well. But UC Riverside is one of the premier I-Corps sites throughout the country on behalf of the National Science Foundation. And we have a super rock star lead instructor who leads us in the Lean Launchpad methodology. This is a fairly rigorous and demanding program, but it's a tremendous opportunity for you to engage in customer discovery and validation and develop your customer market. It's one-on-one mentorship with top-tier experienced startup entrepreneurs, and the aim is to accomplish everything that you see there. The local program here at UC Riverside, we provide you up to $3,000 to begin interviewing, doing deep dive interviews with customers. And several of you may qualify at the end of our program to apply for a national cohort somewhere around the country with the National Science Foundation. This is also in concert with the UC Riverside Proof of Concept Grant opportunity, which can give you up to $35,000 as well. So all of these three in concert are great springboards, good foundations for you to move forward to develop and validate your market and your business. And so here is that rock star that I had mentioned. And Jay, I don't know if you joined us or not, but feel free at any time to tap in these next couple of slides of conversation, especially if I'm conveying fake news here and you need to give me some updates or something like that as well. I should also brag that I'm an instructor in collaboration with Jay, and we are starting our next cohort pretty close, May 15, and I believe, Jay, that we have 16 registered, and we're going to be making final determinations on who are going to be joining us and so forth. And we also are blessed with an opportunity to work with business interns, MBA students from the School of Anderson here at UC Riverside. And it's an excellent opportunity. It is something that the National Science Foundation and all of the other agencies who offer SBIR Phase 1 grants and Phase 2 grants, and if they see that we have participated in an I-Corps program, in the UCR I-Corps program, our chances of getting awarded an SBIR grant are that much more heightened. So I encourage you to very, very seriously consider looking into that, applying for it if you're interested. And after this spring cohort, there are, of course, going to be follow-ons as well. This is going to be a virtual one, as no surprise to you. We focus on something called business model generation, and it pertains to active development of customer discovery and validation, and I'll explain to you what that means. We are tasked with building and developing a business model, and this is distinguished from a business plan. And the aim of a business model is to create value, not just for us, but also for our future investor stakeholders as well. Now, we at UC Riverside, we focus on the two that are the most germane and most critical, and that's value propositions and customer segments and so forth. And we focus on areas that are absolutely critical. And so customer discovery and validation, the distinguishing characteristic between validation and discovery is that when we get into validation, we are actually performing test sales to see whether or not we've gotten to a point where we might be able to see whether we've got the right product, to confirm it, to validate it, and have conversations with regard to price points and so forth as well. That business model that I had shown you in the prior slide, it's patterned after the performance of a scientific experiment. We start with hypotheses, We convert those hypotheses to facts by the performance of experiments, and those are experiments or high quality interviews and so forth, in order for the purpose of discovering whether or not we do indeed have the right value propositions relative to our innovation, and whether or not we are actually pursuing the right customer or not, and whether or not, quite frankly, whether we understand their desired gains, their hurts, their needs, whether we really have a full understanding of the world that they are living in. It is not product focused, it is customer focused all the way. So we focus on mission, hypothesis, performance of the experiments, which again are deep dive, very mentor focused with you, interview caliber, lessons learned, insights gained, and it's a circular reference based upon insights gained. We might be making revisions to our hypotheses and performing additional experiments. At the national level, they do over 100. At the UC Riverside level, we may take you up to about 15 or thereabouts as well. Very impactful, very valuable, and this is the reason why. If any of you have ever done a pitch, if any of you have ever made a presentation to an investor group, if you've met with an investor angel, if you presented to clubs such as the Tech Coast Angels or any of the other ones, you may have been shown a template on how to make a pitch. But when you peel the onion, there are really 3 essential questions that I have heard over and over and over again, and these are the 3. What is your business model? How did your model come about? And what traction have you gained with that business model? And the reason being is exactly what I had conveyed to you earlier about investors, just like SBIR, study section reviewers and so forth, is that we are loss and risk averse human beings. And we need evidence from you to the point that we can feel comfortable enough that we risking funding your investment is worthy of accepting. So very, very important. There is a key reason why I-Corps is so highly coveted and why it is so intensely competitive, and why investor angels from around the country and VCLC and prospective corporate partners set great store by it. So let me wrap it up with this, because I wanted to let you know, for any of you who have never started a venture before, take a look at what your life is going to look like. And I'll be very happy to share my very first venture with you a long time ago. My very best friend Michael Wong and I decided that we were going to buy every Midas muffler shop in San Diego. The owner, Lyle Peterson, had the largest urban assault vehicle I had ever seen in my life. And for those of you who have never seen that, Bill Murray, an urban assault vehicle is an enormous RV. And he had great desire to get out of the Midas muffler shop business and tour the country. So you can see the initial enthusiasm there. And when I say that Mike Wong and I were drunk with enthusiasm, what I really meant was that Mike and I were drunk with enthusiasm. But reality set in pretty quickly when we started meeting with the banks and discovered that a leveraged buyout using Lyle Peterson's debt was actually not going to work. So we went through, and you will be going through exactly the same thing. And by the way, this model follows most of our favorite movies as well. So you go down to reality, and as you start with your discovery and validation interviews, you're going to be possibly doing some pivots. You're going to be discovering that what you had in mind is not exactly what your target customer is looking for. And it can be extremely discouraging. And it may feel like you're not making any progress at all, experimenting. And you may need to be doing some pivoting as well in terms of who's your target customer, what your innovation is all about, what your value proposition is. And if you notice that little dip there at the end of the experiment and pivoting section, that's when you and your partner decide that you don't like each other anymore, and it's kind of like a divorce. But if you can survive that, And if you can stay the course and continue with your discovery and validation, things may start clicking for you. And you'll start finding a pattern of success, as you can see there. And if you're able to get to a point where you have converted those hypotheses into facts and where you are absolutely certain now with evidence that you've got a product market fit, then you indeed may have a great opportunity to scale to a lucrative and very, very exciting opportunity. So that's your future for those of you who are willing to put in the blood and sweat and tears and whatever you need to do to make it happen. So Misty, I think for humanitarian reasons, I'm going to stop talking. And if whatever time we have, we got about 15 or 20 minutes, I guess, at least. So if anybody has any questions, if you've stayed on board, I'll do my very, very best to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer, for posting the slides and the links to our website. I will be sending those out later, and the list, the compiled list from Martin in the next day or so. And we will also be posting those on our website. Do we have any questions?
Sure, I have a question. Anand, hi Misty, hi Martin. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Good to see you again.
Really useful. I'm just wondering, you know, because some of us like who are working or trying to pivot towards COVID-related research, we are already kind of overwhelmed with trying to do the research part. So it would really be useful if somehow, because there's just so many opportunities here, that if we could get like a grid, if somebody in the Office of Research or EPIC could create like a grid for us with like kind of the dates of the deadlines and break them up into like categories, you know, rather than us having to spread it out, that would really help. Maybe even a calendar entry that you can share with faculty members, and then we can get out of each of those calendar entries. And anything that could kind of help us organize our approach towards applying to as many opportunities as possible that can help us.
That's a terrific idea, and we can certainly do that.
And then Anand, Jennifer just posted on our Tech Partnerships website, we do have a COVID-19 webpage with opportunities that we're constantly updating and working on. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, just having them, you know, as a researcher, having them broken up by deadline makes it so much easier for me to see what I can tackle now, what I can tackle later, break up my work and go after some of these ideas.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific idea, and I very much appreciate you doing that. This is something that would be a living, breathing document that would be updated on an ongoing basis.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll figure out on trying to make it a real-time situation.
Perfect.
Thank you for that very much indeed. Misty, I don't know whether it's good or bad news that no one's asking questions.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hey. Hi, my name is Sujata Milek, and I actually was at Stanford working for a program called H4D, which also utilizes the Steve Blank's Hacking for Defense philosophy.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm actually interested in the I-Corps, and my company is a small business that's providing consultancy services. Is that something that would be a fit for I-Corps if I were to apply, or is it really just for technology-oriented kind of startups?
I would say the consultancy services are not a fit.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you come up with a solution, you know, for I-Corps, we typically focus on hardware or software or methods or processes and so forth. So if your consultancy has an innovative process or a method or something to, I don't know, improve the capacity for students in elementary school or later to have better outcomes and so forth? Yes. I mean, we do work with consultancy firms, but it is if they have an innovative solution for doing something. If you're just simply, I don't mean this disparaging, by the way, if you're simply providing your expertise and knowledge and credentials and so forth to help companies, that would not be the case. Yeah, that would not qualify for an I-Corps. Does that help?
This is Anne Maria. I had a question about the NSF project pitch. You know, you mentioned the I-Corps, but now they have that thing where you have to do their 3-page pitch before you can submit.
Right.
Could you give a little guidance on that? Because I'm in the middle of doing it and kind of tearing my hair out.
Yeah, so it's 4 sections. And the reason why the NSF did that was because they were absolutely inundated with every proposal in the history of humankind. And so they decided that they needed to streamline this, their system. And so they implemented last year, about this time, a 4-point pitch, which requires you, it sounds like you've probably tapped into that. So it requires you to provide in about 500 words a description of your innovation. It just calls for the second question to describe and convey, also 500 words, your technology objectives. And it also then calls for information on what your market is and why it's your market and why they would embrace your overture. And then the 4th section calls for an introduction to the team and why you would be qualified and have the credentials and the credibility to perform the project. Now, the objective was to limit who would get accepted, but my experience so far is that pretty much almost everybody gets encouraged to submit a proposal from that. So I'm not certain if it's mission accomplished or not. The folks back there, the program directors, are so absolutely slammed with work that if it looks like it's reasonably cogent and could possibly be something of interest to them, they will give you a go-ahead. We do have to do a project pitch, by the way, for everything that is COVID-19 specific as well. So we all have to follow through the same protocol for registration, and for the NSF, we also have to follow through with the protocol for the project pitch. If you are not familiar with it any further than that, we have a template that we can send you as well, or the link, and it certainly is on the NSF SBIR link, so it's pretty straightforward. I do, by the way, we all do, spend a great deal of time of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to make certain that the project pitch is as effective as it possibly can be. Does that help, or have I not answered your question?
No, that helps. Especially interesting to know that they accept most of them, because I had the impression it was kind of a gatekeeper function.
Well, that was the aim. Yeah, that was the intention. But I don't see a heck of a lot of gatekeeping. Or maybe we are so blessed that everyone who goes through us gets accepted. It could be one or the other. Maybe it's because we are such extremely wonderful mentors that we get them fully prepared. But I don't see the degree of gatekeeping that I anticipated, quite frankly. Things have also changed, by the way, in terms of the anticipated acceptance rate for phase 1 and phase 2. Historically, about 15 to 18% of people get accepted into phase 1, and ballpark of those who then apply to make a transition into phase 2, it's 35, 40, 45%. I'm seeing a switch to more people are being accepted for phase 1. And in particular, because of the aggravations from COVID-19 and so forth, an even larger amount of individuals are clearing project pitch and are giving slightly more lenient consideration for phase one, but transition into phase two, the chances are dropping just a little bit. So just a little bit of a heads up. That being said, however, that doesn't mean that you need to lighten up on the content. And it's easier said than done to put together the most effective delineation for 500 words for the first two, 250 words for the second two, and so forth, to be convincing. It's a heck of a lot easier to convey something in 1,000 words than it is for 500 words. So that's why we all, especially yours truly here, we actually do spend a lot of time on that project pitch, going back and forth until we both feel warm and fuzzy that it's good to go and ready to press the send button.
Martin, we have a question. Are there any templates for project pitches we could look at?
Yes.
I have a question as well.
Yes, Anand.
Yeah, so do you have or know of any company that can help with writing of these grants in a rapid manner? Anyone who can assist in actually or experience, like outsource company or whatever consulting company?
Yeah, that question, everybody, I always get asked that question, and it's my sore spot. So let me get on my pulpit first. I normally am not the biggest fan of professional grant writers, although I know 3 who are really good. I encourage, well, first of all, what I do is I am right by your side the whole time for a deep dive in terms of editing, reading and editing, critiquing, commenting, and going back and forth with you on a weekly basis or whatever is required to make certain that your proposal is spot on. And we also spend quality time with you to make certain that you go through all of the administrative protocols as well. So that is indeed our job, but we do not write your proposal. Now, on the other hand, if you want someone who just simply will translate your intellectual presentation, but you may not be the best novel writer in the world, or if you need someone who you would rather go through all of the administrative protocols for submission and registration and so forth, I am okay with introducing you to them. But it is our job here at EPIC to actually do the lion's share of that with you, with the exception of writing it for you. If it is absolutely necessary for you to have a professional grant writer, then yeah, I can refer some to you. I recommend against it, however, because you as the founder, you're going to be required to come up with the content anyway. You're going to be required to come up with methodology. It is your job to come up with a commercialization plan, and it's your job to build the team and everything else. It's not the grant writer's responsibility to do the job. So the purpose of the grant writer is to be your editor, frankly, and nothing more than that.
Yeah, thanks for the answer.
Okay? Yeah.
Well, the problem is bandwidth, right? Now, staying at home with little kids, if you want to handle 5 projects, you really have to, you really have to get all the help you can. And so what I have in mind is somebody, a grant writer who will basically in conversation and through rough materials that I throw at them will come up with the first draft. And then I can take that and polish it off with consultation with EPIC. That model works because otherwise the barrier to entry to tackle all of these grants is so high that I probably wouldn't do that. That's
yeah. And the answer is yeah. I mean, if you need a professional grant writer, there are those out there, and as I say, I know 3 of them. We at EPIC, however, work with you on content. And so all of the areas that I had mentioned are of the 4 bugaboos and so forth. That's where we set great store by, amongst others, in order to help you with research methodology and the absolute content of the commercialization plan. But I do know several professional grant writers who can help you, but they are also insisting that the best that they will do for you is to be an editor, to perhaps make what might be esoteric wording into something that might be understandable by mom and grandpa and so forth as well.
Oh dear, that's not very useful.
What's not useful?
No, I mean, what I'm saying is that that kind of grant writer who's actually going to edit my grant and polish it off is probably not as useful as somebody who assembles all the components and tries to place them in a structure where which.
Oh no. They will do that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll do that as well. So they'll make certain that your proposal is structured properly and will avoid any errors upon submission and so forth. That's their job.
Got it.
I am just hammering away on you and everybody else that it is still your job and our job here at EPIC to ensure that content is appropriate, methodology, commercialization plan is appropriate and so forth. That's where we work with you. But other than that, these professional grant writers do indeed have the experience to help you with structure, organization, and submission protocol and so forth.
Got it. Thanks.
Martin, back to the project pitch. We had some questions about the templates, and I believe you do have templates available, correct?
Yes.
For those who want access to the templates, should they reach out to us?
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the best way?
Yeah, just reach out to us, and we do have those templates.
All right, and a few other questions. One was, and I can answer this one, do we assist anyone even if you're not affiliated with UCR? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
We help anyone who needs assistance with SBIRs, STTRs, also with your small business.
Mm-hmm.
And then a question about if we review already written SBIR grant applications. And the answer to that is also yes, we can help you review and improve. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're there to help.
Okay, so
we also, by the way, it may come as no surprise to you that sometimes at first submission, we may get declined. That happens a lot. And the good news is that the study sections, the reviewers, you do get a report back with a delineation of where they feel your strengths and your weaknesses are. And so we also work very, very closely with you for resubmissions and make certain that we properly address all of the reviewer concerns as well, to also, of course, heighten your chances of having a success the second time around.
So, Martin, we are out of time, but we wanted to mention a few things. One is we have 2 upcoming events. Here's the information for our website, and thank you to Jennifer, our programs and outreach specialist, who's been answering in the comments. We will be posting information on our website. If you need any help, please feel free to email me. I will set up a time for you to talk with me and Martin. I'll send you any information you need. We have in 2 weeks, May 6th, we will be doing an SBIR STTR Q&A. I will also send out this registration information to you with the slides, but we're gonna just have an open session so you can ask everything you wanted to know about SBIRs. And then Scott is hosting something this afternoon. The founders talk at 4, so I'll let him talk.
Go ahead, Scott.
About that.
Yeah, hi guys. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. As everyone's already mentioned, this is part of our EPIC program. at UCR, the STTR, SBIR, STTR, as well as we do a lot of other things as well. And so one of the things is we've been helping a lot of businesses, about 300 so far in the last 4 weeks, navigate this challenging time of COVID. So we have a number of online things happening. One every Wednesday, we have a program called Founder Talks. Today we have an attorney from LA who's a startup specialist, as well as an IP attorney and a corporate attorney. So we've had a ton of legal questions coming in, not just from our startups, also from the small businesses that we mentor through our EPIC program. So I'm going to put it here in the chat. You can sign up there if you can see that. It's called Founder Talks. We also have a marketing expert to help out navigate this time. That is a one-on-one, 1 hour session that you can book. And we also are going to be starting next Friday. We have something called Finance Fridays, where we're going to be having CFO experts come in and help answer your basically your finance questions. That can be fundraising, that can be putting together your pro forma, that can also just be general finance questions about how to navigate, again, this challenging time for all businesses. So just want to give you a heads up on that. We've got a lot of things happening in addition to these great SBIR talks that Misty and Martin are leading. So be sure to check us out, and my email and phone number are there. And there. And then also the next, I think we have those, Jennifer, I think we have those events on the next slide, which is the OTP website with all the resources for not just EPIC, but all the things we're doing at UCR, as well as COVID resources. So if you have any questions, reach out, and thanks for coming to this. We appreciate it.
I also wanted, by the way, in addition to introducing you to Scott and Jay and Misty, and of course yours truly, I wanted to introduce you also to David Pearson, who may or may not be with us, but David has a list of experiences which is longer than most of our arms, and he is our managing director of entrepreneurial programs and so forth. He is running the MRB multi-research building here on campus, UC Riverside Incubator, and is heavily involved in directing the proof of concept grants. But an additional area that I found intriguing and that we're working very heavily on is the formation of corporate investing partnerships as well. And there will be a fairly significant program in the pipeline coming very soon under the direction of David Pearson. So I wanted to call your attention to him as well. So I think that's it. I hope that at least some of this was of value to you. And as I say, my aim today was to introduce you to a few more COVID-19 opportunities that I thought might possibly be of interest to you. But at the same time, there are over 75 FOAs, funding opportunity announcements pertaining to COVID-19, rapid turnaround, rapid funding. So it's going to be shown online. I guess Misty, as within 24 hours or so forth, will as best as we can to get that up there. It's real time. It'll be changing as information comes about. And so take a look at it and see if there may be something that may be a fit for you that possibly I did not talk today. So other than that, thank you so much for meeting with us today. And I look forward to hopefully meeting as many of you as we can possibly can.
Thanks, Martin.
Anything else?
Thanks, Misty.
Bye. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.